Good evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about Tim Donaghy, the former NBA referee that was caught in a betting scandal. This tonight is presented by me, Matt Becker, Licia, Max, Jason, and Julian.
Abstract. This paper breaks down the ethical mess surrounding former NBA referee Tim Donaghy and his infamous betting scandal. As a referee, Donaghy was supposed to stay neutral, but when he started betting on games he officiated, he completely undermined the integrity of the NBA. His actions brought up bigger questions on whether the league had enough checks in place to keep this kind of thing from happening. This case shows us how personal gain can clash with professional responsibilities, putting the whole sport's credibility on the line. It's not just about a guy making bad decisions. It's about what happens when trust is broken from the league to the players and even the fans. This study pushes us for better oversight and stronger ethical training for referees because if you lose the fairness, you lose the game. Ultimately, it reminds us that sports aren't just about competition; they're about integrity. And when that's compromised, the dangers go beyond the court.
Our thesis, the ethical dilemma in the case of former NBA referee Tim Donaghy, highlights a violation of sportsmanship and integrity, where his personal financial interests conflicted with his professional responsibilities. This case exemplifies the importance of maintaining fair play, balanced competition, and stakeholder trust in professional sports, while also exposing the need for strict oversight and ethics training to prevent similar violations in the future.
So, who is Tim Donaghy? He was a 13-year NBA referee who admitted to relying on classified information from the NBA in order to make picks for sports bettors within the gambling ring. He began receiving funds in 2006 from co-conspirators in exchange for correct picks, receiving payments from each correct pick, no payments for incorrect picks. He pled guilty in 2007 for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to transfer gambling information, faced with a maximum sentence of 25 years in federal prison. Allegedly used code words over the phone to address which teams he would let win. The NBA conducted a private investigation and concluded that Donaghy did not fix games. Years later, ESPN conducted an independent investigation on the operations, finding Donaghy's responsible for betting on games.
So, what is sports betting? Forbes defines sports betting as the act of risking money on the outcome of a sporting event or any aspect of a sporting event. The goal is to turn a profit. Sports betting includes wagers on the money line, spread, over under, parlays, props, and futures. To the average human being, sports betting is fun and a way to make a little cash on on the teams or players they believe will win that specific event. It even extends to fans making their fantasy team picks through sites like DraftKings. This site allows you to build your fantasy team or lineup and, and predict outcomes while placing live wagers. The uncertainty and unpredictability of sports makes sports betting an activity that triggers adrenaline and excitement. The emotional roller coaster experienced when money is on the line can mirror the intensity of the game itself. With the rise of online sportsbooks and mobile betting apps, it's easier than ever to place a bet from anywhere at any time. This convenience has led to a boom in betting as people no longer have to visit casinos or betting shops to place the wager. In essence, sports betting taps into the primal desire for competition and reward. With the help of modern conveniences like technology, it offers an experience ranging from casual fun to serious strategy.
Right. What is the NBA? The NBA is the National Basketball Association, founded in 1949 when the Basketball Association of America merged with the National Basketball League. It is the highest level of professional basketball in USA, boasting 30 teams separated within two 15-team conferences spread across the mainland United States and Canada. 82 game It has an 82 game regular season with a chance at postseason play. In July 2018, NBA signed a multi-year deal with MGM Resorts, making them the official gambling partner of the NBA. So how does sports betting apply to ethics? Before sports betting became legal in the US, it was a major ethical concern in the sports world. NASO exists in order to ensure referees maintain the integrity of the game. Violated rules of NASO. It consists of conflict of interest, Section 7, The code states that the officials must avoid anything that could lead to a real or perceived conflict of interest. Donaghy's actions directly violated this by betting on NBA games, particularly ones that he officiated, creating both a real and apparent conflict. This behavior undermined his ability to remain impartial. Again. All right, Section 13, illegal gambling. The code explicitly forbids officials from participating in any form of illegal gambling on sports contests, particularly those where they have a direct and indirect involvement. Donaghy violated this rule by placing bets on games he refereed, compromising the fairness and integrity of the sport. Section 3, integrity and neutrality. Officials are required to uphold neutrality and maintain the integrity of the game. Donaghy's betting, especially with insider knowledge, compromised his ability to remain neutral. His actions tarnished the integrity of the NBA by creating the possibility that game outcomes were influenced by his personal financial interests. Section 12, using position for personal gain. Officials must resist the temptation to use their position for personal benefit. Donaghy's use of insider information to place bets and profit financially was a direct violation of his ethical standard as he leveraged his position for illegal personal gain.
The ethical dilemma. The ethical dilemma involving former NBA referee Tim Donaghy centers around the conflict between professional responsibilities and personal gain. As a referee, Donaghy was entrusted with the integrity of the game, expected to be an impartial judge on the court on the court activities. However, by betting on the very game he officiated, Donaghy violated the core principles of fairness, honesty, and impartiality. This breach of trust affects key stakeholders, including but not limited to the NBA, players, coaches, fans, and the broader community, all of whom rely on the referee to ensure balanced competition and integrity of the sport. Key points of ethical dilemma include conflict of interest. Donaghy's personal financial interest directly clashes with the professional duty to remain unbiased. His betting not only skewed game outcomes, but also introduced doubt about the legitimacy of other games he officiated, even if he wasn't directly involved. Breach of stakeholder trust. The NBA and its stakeholders depend on the impartiality of officials to maintain fair play. Donaghy's actions damaged the NBA's reputation and raised concerns about the potential for similar unethical behaviors in the future. Ethical decision making. The key question revolves around the just approach of how should the NBA respond and protect the rights of all parties and restore trust, and how can future ethical breaches be prevented through training and oversight. By betting on games, Donaghy chose personal financial gain over collective trust placed in him, highlighting a clear ethical violation in sports management. This situation demands not only personal accountability, but also a broad examination of the systems and safeguards within professional sports.
As previously mentioned, there's many stakeholders involved in this conflict. Internally, those include the NBA players, both currently in the NBA and those that were there during the time of Tim Donaghy, as well as the coaches, same as the players, both current and former, as well as team owners, fellow NBA referees, future NBA referees, and then all employees that work for the 30 teams that make up the National Basketball Association. From an external perspective, the stakeholders can include any and all fans of the NBA, as well as any other fans of Major League sports, sports bettors, NBA player agents, NBA league sponsors, and NBA player sponsors, sports media such as ESPN, Bleacher Report, as well as Donaghy's family and friends. Now, Donaghy did not only act alone; he actually worked in a group. The first biggest person that he worked with was James Batista. He was a longtime friend and also known as a gambling addict. After finding himself in a hole with underground gamblers, he approached Donaghy about fixing games for money, and Batista would pay Donaghy what he referred to as 2 dimes or $2,000 for every game that he fixed. And if the pick missed, Donaghy would be owed nothing. He was known as a mover in the world of sports gambling, meaning he was a broker that lays down wagers on clients' behalves with bookmakers of different types. In the end, through an investigation and trial, he was only sentenced to 15 months in prison for his crimes. As for the other accomplice, Thomas Martino, he was also a close friend of Tim Donaghy and James Batista, and he acted as the liaison in the gambling operation. Donaghy would contact Martino via burner phone and inform him which teams to pick, typically through code words. The information was then sent to Batista, who would then spread that as the mover. He was sentenced in prison and he faced 1 year in prison.
So NASA, we touched about it a little bit earlier on the rules that Donaghy broke from NASA, but a little about what it is. It's the National Association of Sports Officials. So it's basically the governing body for referees and officials. It's a nonprofit, was founded in July of 1980, consists of 30,000 referees, umpires, judges, assigners, and sport leaders across the US, and is governed by more than 75 leaders. Some of the rules that Donaghy broke was rule number 7, which is basically having a conflict of interest while refereeing, which he clearly did. Rule number 9, which is restraining access to officiating assignments or association membership. This includes selection for positions of leadership based on economic factors, race, creed, color, age, sex, physical handicap, country, national, religion. Rule number 12, officials shall resist every temptation and outside pressure to use one's position as an official to benefit oneself, which you blatantly broke. And rule 13, officials shall never participate in any form of illegal gambling on sports contests, may never gamble on sporting event which they have either direct or indirect involvement, and may never gamble on events involving high school athletics. So clearly, Donaghy in the wrong on multiple accounts of the NASO's code of conduct. Initially, Donaghy was required to turn in his passport and needed permission to travel anywhere other than Pennsylvania, Florida, and New York. Some believed he would receive up to 25 years in prison, but ultimately he only served 15 months in federal prison. He should have received a lifetime ban from refereeing from professional, semi-professional, collegiate, any level of basketball for the acts that he committed. And although he committed all of these acts, he was never actually found guilty for purposely making referee calls in his favor until years later when ESPN launched that investigation.
Attached below are some of our sources that we used. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Have a great night.